The way we book meetings keeps changing. So in the 1980s, it was face-to-face. In the 1990s, it's primarily on the phone. In the 2000s, it was email. Today, AI agents and sequences and things of that nature are propping up. The channel evolves, the tools change, but what wins once the conversation starts, that hasn't changed in decades, maybe even centuries, because here's the deal. Cold or warm, once the conversation starts, it's all worthless if the sales rep doesn't know what to say once the live conversation starts. They get a live prospect on the phone. If they don't know what to say, that's where the deal is lost. And the truth is, most reps today have never been taught how to run a sales call from hello to close. And that's why so many opportunities die after the first call. So I started as a straight commission rep with no college degree. I learned the hard way, dial by dial, what works and what doesn't. Over time, I broke records. I eventually started my own business. It was a marketing company, a search engine optimization company. I built that based on my ability to know how to cold call and get clients. And I eventually sold that as a 7-figure exit. And today, I've been training sales teams worldwide on how to control the sales call, cold or warm, without sounding controlling, without sounding scripted. And what that does is it increases your average close rate by about 30%. And I have a program that does that in about 8 weeks. It'll teach you. With that being said, what I'm going to share with you today, it's not theory. It's the same framework that all my clients are using right now to turn stalled pipelines into constant revenue. I'll take some questions as we get through this, but let's just start here. Here's what usually happens once, and tell me if this sounds familiar. Here's what usually happens once the call starts when reps haven't been trained properly. They jump in with small talk that feels forced. They ask 1 or 2 surface level questions, and then they launch straight into a full demo and expect to close. And the leaders wonder why opportunities die after the first call. Here's the other part. Maybe you have a team of BDRs who are grinding to book meetings only to hand them to AEs who respectfully have no idea how to control the sales call. And sales managers, they don't have the time today. They're too busy trying to get people to fill out, update their pipeline, right? So they don't have the time or the framework to fix it. Does any of this sound familiar? Yeah, use your chat box. Yep, that's fine. Yeah, it sounds way too familiar. I understand. So here's the thing. The problem that most teams are facing today, reps are burning time and energy just to get a meeting on the books, only to waste it by winging the actual call. It doesn't matter if it's a cold or warm, inbound or outbound, if the conversation isn't run with a framework that if you have to follow a specific framework. It's a lot like baseball. I'm going to be teaching this. It's like every time you pick up the phone, you're in the batter's box. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be the phone. I don't care how you get the meeting. You can send a cold email. You can use the phone. You can use LinkedIn outreach. You can send smoke signals for all I care. But once you get the meeting, once you get the prospect on the phone, that's where the real problems begins, and why sales teams are having a hard time converting them into those opportunities into close one is because they don't know how to control the sales call. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first things first, and how to do this in 30 minutes or less. Yes, I'll take some questions, but here's the framework. First things first. Everything starts when, whether it was cold or warm, you have to have a conversation with them. Do we agree on that? Again, usually, right? So, okay, so let's say it was your BDR. Let's do it this way. BDRs book a call with you. You're the AE. Okay, you're picking up. You have to call them, or it's Zoom. It's a Zoom call. It's a phone call. It doesn't matter. Right? You have to know how to start the conversation. What is the purpose of the very beginning of your opening value statement, whether it's cold or warm? Who can tell me? Let me help you guys out here. Okay, somebody says alignment. What else? Don't be shy. The faster you guys answer, the more will get done, so you can have more takeaways. All right, somebody says establish credibility. What else? Come on, guys. Value. Anything else? So here's the thing. Look at the different answers that we're getting. And what's the answers aren't surprising. What surprised me is that some of you are hesitating to actually, respond. If you're a sales leader, you should share what you feel the answer should be. And if you're a sales rep, you should be sharing what you feel the answer is. So here's the thing. When I approach a sales call, whether it's cold or warm, when we're about to have that meeting, the first thing I want to do is my intent is to see if I can help. That's always my intent, right? So just on a high level, 30,000 foot view, I want to see if I can help, because if I approach the call with see if I can help, if there's rejection that happens, they're rejecting the help, they're not rejecting me. So that was one of the main ways I was able to survive so long to this day, 30 plus years as a straight commission sales rep, right? I own SalesBuzz, but if I'm not selling, I'm not eating sales, right? So I'm still a straight commission sales rep. With that being said, one of the reasons why I was able to do this on my own and be successful at other companies when I was working for other people is I approach to see if I can help. I approach it with a plan. And so the plan for the opening value statement is I have to do two things. Whether it's cold or warm, I want to pique interest and gain permission to continue the call. So even on a warm lead, even if they book it on, it's an inbound lead, they book the call and they have that meeting, the objective of that opening value statement doesn't change. There's already some interest there because they booked a meeting, or the BDR already has booked a meeting. So you would think, well, there's already some interest there, but you want to establish control without being controlling. And so you want to have a game plan. So when you start the call, cold or warm, with I got to pique interest and gain permission to continue the call, you're off to the right start. So let me give an example on a warm lead. They booked a call. It could sound something like this. Hey, Charles, it's Michael Pedone, SalesBuzz.com. I understand we have a call scheduled for right now. Is this still a good time for you? Yes, it is. Okay, great. One, I appreciate you being interested in our services. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions just to make sure what we have to offer would be a good fit for you and your team? Would that be okay? What did I do there? I'm still in the batter's box, but what am I doing? I'm wording it in a way to where, one, at the end of the day, I'm gaining control of the call. And one of the best ways that you can get control of a call is to give the appearance of giving control away. I front load it with a what's in it for them, right? There's a real good, strong possibility of what we offer might be able to help your team solve X, Y, Z. I just need to ask you a few questions first to be sure. Would that be okay? And notice the okay is on an uptick, right? So all these little things matter. And so when you front load that opener with the what's in it for them, and then you gain that permission, you immediately establish control when they go, yeah, sure, go ahead. Matter of fact, when you do it right, more often than not, you'll hear the excitement and there's some relief, like, yes, let's see if this can solve my solution. So that's on a warm lead. On a cold call, it might be the same thing. Hey, Charles, Michael Pedone, SalesBuzz.com. I help CROs get their team to overcome call reluctance. And if I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if we would offer maybe some help to you. Would that be okay? Or I could say something totally. So that formula works in no matter what industry it is. So by the way, and here's why I do not like the popular 27 seconds. How many of you have seen on LinkedIn where they talk about the 27-second opener? And people rave about it because they go, hey, I didn't get rejected right away. And so yes, if your objective of the sales call is to avoid being rejected in the first few seconds, and that's all you want to establish, go right ahead. The problem is you go, hey, I know this is a cold call, you're not expecting a call. Do you have 27 seconds to hear why I'm calling? Now, you might think these two things are the same, but they're not, because if they say, sure, go ahead, you just ask permission to do a data dump. So if they go, yeah, I got 27 seconds, go ahead. And now you're forced to do a mini sales presentation, a mini data dump. Who's in control of that call? And a lot of times after that, you'll get short one-word engagement questions after you get, but then it almost always ends up, well, just send me an email, send me some information. The salesperson's high-fiving everybody around them, thinking that they have a deal in the pipeline, and yet they never get them back on the phone when they start following up, and they label it as they got ghosted or they weren't qualified. This is why deals are falling apart after the first call. Are you guys with me on this or not? Feel free to call me out if you don't agree, by all means. But are you picking up what I'm laying down? Is what I'm saying relevant? Is it making sense to you? Okay. So the very first thing, your call framework for your team has to be where step one, nothing else matters. We have to pique interest, gain permission, continue the call. Doesn't matter if even if the appointment's already set, you have to start the call the right way so that you frame it with the what's in for them, and then you gave permission to continue the call because you want to be able to ask them questions. I break the sales process down into 4 categories. Okay, so step one is, again, like I'm more of a hockey guy. The baseball analogy works super well in the sales field here, and this is the formula I've been using to be successful no matter what I've been selling in different industries. Over decades, I still use the same formula. I just adapt it to the vertical that I'm selling, and you can too, okay? It's going to take some work. It's going to take some practice, but if you do this, you're going to make more money than you ever have before. So the first step is very simple. You got to get to first base. I'm on the phone, or I pick up the phone, whether it's cold or warm, I got to get to first base. What does first base mean? It means I've piqued their interest so much to the point where they've given me permission to ask them a few questions. Make sense? Matter of fact, part of my course, I actually have a free course you guys can try. I'll give you a link at the end of this. It'll show you how to custom create an opening value statement, cold or warm, to your vertical so you start getting more people to take your calls, okay? So I'll be more than happy to send everybody or show you where to go on the site afterwards to get that. With that being said, once you pique interest and gain permission to continue the call, you're on first base. Now what do you do? This is the part, this is where the rubber really meets the road. This is where almost all deals start to fall apart, and most salespeople don't know it. So when you get somebody on the phone, what's the next step? You've got them to agree to, yeah, sure, go ahead. You can ask me a couple of questions. What is the purpose of the next question that you need to ask? What is your game? What are you supposed to accomplish with the very next? You just called somebody cold or warm. They agreed to take the call. Yep, now's a good time. Sure, go ahead, ask away. What do you do? Emmy, yes, you are in the qualifying phase. I love that, yes. So we have the first phase is your opener. The second phase is qualifying, okay? Now, what does qualifying mean? Right. Now, Roy says, okay, and I appreciate it, says, well, ask a deep, relevant question, okay? Now, imagine, I want everybody to imagine this for a second. Imagine your company paid for sales training, and you have this expert come in, and they say, okay, you get them on the phone. The next thing you have to do is you have to ask a deep, relevant question. How many people does that help on the sales team? How many people know exactly what to do? Oh, wait, any answer? It's ambiguous, right? It doesn't depend on the value you provide. No. See, I love this, and this is why I think I can help you guys the most, because I see these kind of answers all the time. So first of all, I like what Emma said is that, and Roy is in that same thing. Like, we got to ask questions, right? A deep, relevant question. The problem is it doesn't help a sales rep go, okay, great, but what kind of question? What's the purpose of the question? How do I create that for my vertical, my industry? How do I know if it's going to get them talking? What's the end goal of asking that type of question? So when you back up for a second, the 4 phases: opener, got to first base, they gave me permission. The second thing, to get to second base means they're qualified. So now I have to qualify them. Well, what does qualifying mean? What does qualified mean? Let me ask you this. If you're a sales leader and you told your sales team you have to qualify them, how many of them say, well, I already know they're qualified because they're in the right vertical and industry and they have the right title? How many of them would say that? Well, I already know they're qualified. They have the right title, they're in the right vertical, the right industry. You don't until you ask questions. I like it. So here's the thing. There's 3 phases to qualifying. This is going to be super important for you. As you guys learn this, you're going to start closing a lot more deals. 3 phases to qualifying. The first phase, you got to get problem recognition. That's the first step in qualifying. You can't call a prospect and tell them that they have a problem because they'll doubt it. How many of you have asked maybe a surface level question, and then based on the prospect's answers, you go, okay, I know exactly what problem they have. Let me show them the solution. And then you dated up your solution. Then you go for a close, and they come back and they go, yeah, I think we'll just stick with what we have. That's because it's not enough for you as the sales rep to recognize a problem. You have to get them to recognize a problem. And if you're cold calling, the difference between cold calling and warm calling is a warm call is an inbound lead. They already recognize the problem. A cold call, oftentimes, they're not going to recognize a problem, and you can't call and tell them that they have a problem because they'll doubt it, or they'll just stick with what they have. So what you have to do is you have to learn how to ask the right questions in order to get them to recognize a problem. Does that make sense? So and here's, by the way, you're not going to get it with just one question. It takes a series of questions. So when I call somebody and I pique interest, gain permission, they go, yeah, sure, I got a second, go ahead. My very first question is called what I call an engagement question. The engagement question places their attention in the area that I need them thinking about. It could sound like this. So when it comes to your sales team, are they doing like traditional outbound cold calling, prospecting, or are they handling inbound warm leads? See, I don't care what the answer is. It's this or that. If you sell trucking services or like shipping services, so when it comes to your shipping, are you currently handling full truckloads or LTL? Doesn't matter how they answer. Well, we're doing this, we're doing that. You're putting their attention in an area you want them thinking about. Once you get that response, you customize it to your vertical. It's easy for them to respond, but you get them talking about an area that you need them talking about. Then the next question I use is called an opportunity size question. So in my industry, if I say your sales, are they handling inbound warm leads or are they doing like traditional outbound prospecting? Oh, they're doing the first, the second, a combination, or none of those are doing this. Okay, doesn't matter how they answer. Okay, great. Just out of curiosity, how many sales reps you have? Again, when it comes to like the example I gave, if you handle shipping services, doing full loads or LTLs. Oh, we're doing this or combination or whatever. Okay, great. Just out of curiosity, how many shipments a month are you doing on average? You see how easy that is and how structured it is? And then, so once you get those first 2 questions, then you can pepper in a problem because you're already thinking about that answer. So for example, so when it comes to, let's say they answer for the shipping, they do LTLs. Great. So here's the thing. The clients we help the most, the ones that get the highest ROI possible for what we have to offer when it comes to their shipping needs, they're usually struggling with, and then you give like two common problems and you let them pick one. So out of those 2 scenarios, which one, best fits your situation? Oh, it's the first, it's the second, it's a combination. It's none of those. It's this. And now you have a problem that they're dealing with. Does this make sense? You guys with me? So I'm just giving you the generalization of having a structure. You got to peak interest, then you want to gain permission to continue the call, and then you have to know that you're in the qualifying phase. You have to know how to master qualifying, how to start the sales conversation. The best way to do it is by asking a engagement question, followed by the opportunity size question, followed by the pain point question. And then there's a couple other questions that you would ask that would get them to determine if a problem is relevant or not. It's not enough for you as a sales rep to know if the problem exists. You have to get the person on the other end of the line to see the problem, agree that it's a problem, and agree that that's a problem that they need to be solved. Make sense? This is where so many sales reps skip this step because one, they don't know. That's one reason. Two, they don't know how to get problem recognition. One of the most common on inbound warm leads that sales reps ask is, what made you decide to set this meeting up today? And I have to tell you, most decision makers know that you're basically wanting me to cough up my hot button, and they're going to be guarded. So they're not going to always give you the full details. And even if they give you some surface level answer, most sales reps don't know how to dig and unpack that and find out the true cost of why that's an issue. They just take it as a surface level and go, great, let me show you how to solve that. And they jump to true or no. Now, maybe there's a couple of you in here that are experts and you got this handled, and God bless you. That's the way it should be. I want everybody to be that way. But what I'm seeing with the report, and it's not just me from my clients and what I've seen of people that are coming to me that become my clients, I'm seeing it from all kinds of sources that the close rates are down. They keep going down. They're down in 23, down in 2024, and they're even lower. So there's all kinds of craziness going on in the world. AI is disrupting the political landscape, whether the economy is great or not. Here's the thing: if you're working for an AI startup, you're probably crushing it, right? If you're selling something in the rest of America, you're probably hurting a little bit. And so you can't afford to blow those opportunities when you do have a meeting, whether it was cold or, and when you hand an appointment over to a sales rep that doesn't know how to control the sales, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So you need your team to realize how to structure the call. And there's only one best way to do it. There's lots of ways to do it, but there's only one best of the best that's going to get the best results consistently. And the one I'm sharing with you is the one that's enabled me to make millions of dollars working for other people, and then starting my companies, and then selling them, and then still being able to teach people how to do it. I mean, there's a proven pattern here over 30 years. And what I learned back then still works today. So the first step is this. Once you get the conversation, you have to know that you're in the qualifying phase. Once you get to first base, and the first phase of qualifying is you got to get problem recognition. What do you think the second phase is? What do you think the second phase is? The second phase of qualifying. Yeah, just to clarify. So we got to get problem recognition. What happens once you get problem recognition? Let's say you ask a couple of those questions and they agree. Yep, there's definitely a problem. What do you do now? Let me ask you, don't you want to know their purchasing process before you do a demo? Aren't you tired of doing a demo and then finding out at the end where they say, I have to check with so-and-so, or we have a couple other people to speak with first, or I got to get approval from this, or it's not in the budget? Aren't you tired of those common objections that everybody in every industry gets? You're getting those objections because you're not following a structured path on the qualifying phase. When you learn to start with getting the conversation going by getting problem recognition, the next step is to qualify them on their role in the decision-making process. And I'll just share with you right now, every prospect you ever speak to, they're going to fit into one of 5 roles. They're either going to be the ultimate decision maker, which means they don't need anybody else's approval. If they decide they want it, the other option, they are part of the decision-making team. What does that mean? That means they have a vote. You need and want their vote, but their vote alone does not get the. Third option, they're an influencer. What does that mean? The influencer has the ear of the decision-making or decision-makers, but they don't have a vote. By the way, can you ever close a deal only speaking to an influencer? Can you ever close deals only speaking to an influencer? I do it all the time. I see some no's, I see some yeses. I do it all the time. But the way I'm able to do it is once I get problem recognition and then I qualify them on their role, when I find out if they're a role, if they're an influencer, and when they confirm that they're an influencer, I ask one other question, okay? And it'll sound like this. So if I go, so other than yourself, who else is involved in the decision-making process when it comes to choosing a solution to solve X, Y, Z? Oh, it's my. Okay, great. I call this the fast forward technique. Okay, great. So once you So let's assume for a second you end up liking what it is that we have to offer. Time out for a second. Keep in mind, this is really important. I piqued interest, gained perspective. I started asking my engagement questions. We got problem recognition. So before I do anything else, there's no presentation yet, no nothing. We're 90 seconds into the call. It doesn't take me long. When you know how to do this right, it doesn't take long to get to pique interest, gain permission, and get problem recognition. You could do it within 90 seconds to a minute and to 2.5 minutes tops. So once you do that, it's real quick in the call. The next phase is to identify their real role in the decision-making process. You have to know that there are 5 roles. And then when you ask the fast forward, the qualifying question with the fast forward question of, other than yourself, who else is involved in the decision-making process on something like this? Oh, it's my decision. Okay, great. So let's assume for a second you end up liking what it is that we have to offer. And let's say you decide that you want to move forward with it. What happens next? Do you see how that makes them feel in control based on how I said those things? And guess what? If they come back and if they just told me they were the decision maker, and then I run that fast forward play and they go, oh, if I decide I like it, I submit it to so-and-so for approval. Okay, guess what? I'm really not speaking to the decision maker. So then my follow-up, so now that I've identified which of the 5 they are, I have to go a slightly different path. So if they are not, if they have to take it to their decision maker for final approval, my next question will determine if I can close an influencer or not. And it's just a simple question. All right, awesome. Just out of curiosity, is this something they asked you to look into, or are you just kind of taking the bull? Their answer to that will determine if I can close them without speaking to an influencer or without speaking to a decision maker. If they come back and say, no, they asked me to look into this, I know I can continue with this. This is my champion here. I can influence them, and I've closed a lot of deals like that. If, however, on the flip side, and they came back and said, no, I'm just taking the bull by the horns. I've been doing sales long enough to know that if they're not a decision maker and they weren't asked to look into it, I'm not wasting my time. So I have to run a different strategy. Okay, we don't have time to get in that, but I'm just trying to give you, do you guys see how this works? This whole framework that I'm teaching you, it's like, you ever see an organizational chart? You got the CEO on top, and then you got a little drop down, and then you got the 2 things that go here, and then the people that lead under there. You're basically doing that. Go from here to here to here to here. Okay, now we have these options. Okay, it's this one. Now I have to go to this. Everybody follow me? I know we're going to be running out of time soon. Yes, I'll get sufficient. We might have to go over a little bit. That's fine. All right. So again, the process. You have to establish problem recognition. If there's no problem to solve, there's no need for a solution. So everything lives and dies right there. Most sales reps skip it, or they just get a surface level answer. Next, you have to identify their real role in the decision-making process and handle it accordingly. Let's, for the sake of argument, you're speaking with a decision maker, part of the decision-making team, or an influencer who was asked to look. What's next? You want to uncover what their time frame for solving that. So many reps skip this step, and then they put it in the pipeline, and it never has a chance to close. You have to get agreement on what that timeline is. Every one of you, for whatever business you're working in, has what I call a strike zone. What I mean by that is from the time you first contact a prospect to the time they buy, there's an average time frame for strike zone. For me, it's usually 30 days or less. For some of my clients like 3M, it could be anywhere from 6 months to a year, right? Because of the large size. And then there's everything in between. The point is, you should know what your strike zone is so that when you do ask the time frame, it can sound like this. Okay, so you got problem recognition, you established their role, they're one of the top 3, and they were asked to look into it, they're an influencer. And you go, great. Just say, how soon ideally would you like to have this solution solved? If they give you an answer, again, the tree structure, if they give you an answer that's outside of your strike zone, you have to know how to handle that. If they give you an answer within your strike zone, you move on to the next step. Does this make sense? So now the next step is, right, once you identify time, you want to identify their pain points and hotlines. Like, what does the ideal solution look like? This one question helped a client of mine in Toledo, Ohio recently. They were selling HVAC maintenance contracts, got him an $80,000 deal. I had taught him to ask this one question before he started the presentations. It was during the qualifying. What are the top 3 things most important to you when selecting a service to solve X? Now, I'm only asking that question at this time frame because if you back everything up, everything else makes sense. We got problem recognition. I understand who they are as far as their role in the decision-making process. And we also got them on their time frame fits in the strike zone, right? So now I want to find out what's most important in selecting a solution to help solve X, Y, Z. If I don't know problem recognition, I can't even ask that question. If I don't know if they're the right person to speak to, asking that question might not make any sense. So when I ask that person, I get that information feedback, then I'm going to qualify on the pricing, which is very controversial. Most sales managers will tell you, don't bring up price until after the presentation. This is bad sales practice. And it's a standard. It's like the gold standard. Don't bring price up until afterwards. But if you're giving a presentation, your presentation's job is not to give a presentation. Your presentation's job is to create an opportunity to close. That is the only reason to do a presentation. I'll say it again, to create an opportunity to close. I don't like hearing when I try to go for a close, well, it's not in the budget. Well, I should have found that out before I did a presentation. The other problem too is when they say it's not in the budget, if it's after the presentation, it's only one of two options. They're either telling the truth or the, and if they're lying, but I don't handle it because I don't want to ruffle feathers, I don't ever get them on the phone again. If they're telling the truth, I just wasted, and I try to handle it, it's going to create friction. Does this make sense? So, and besides, the other problem when it comes to not giving pricing at the end of a presentation is if they don't understand what the price is, you're giving a presentation. What do you think they're thinking about half the time you're trying to give them a presentation? They're wondering what's this going to cost. They're not even fully engaged, right? So the other thing too is I like to play chess. Some sales reps like to play checkers. I like to play. I know that if I get problem recognition, I identified their real role in the decision-making process, and I found out their time frame, what's most important to them, and then I go ahead. Now, I should have enough information to give a price range. I don't have to give a specific price, but I should have enough information to give a low and a high where I could say, based on everything you told me, I have good news, bad news. The good news is it's not going to be any, let's say it won't be any more than that. I guess the real question is this: if what we have to offer is the best fit for what you're looking for, is that price range doable? It's just a yes. If they say, yeah, okay, great. Here's awesome. Let's do this. Let me explain how it works. Tell you a little bit about it. I'll answer any questions you have. And look, if you like what you hear, we'll just take it from there. Oh yeah, sure. Fully qualified. We're on second base now. Now we got a round base. We got to get to third base and then round home. From second to third, you're doing your presentation. There's a right way and a wrong way to do presentations. We don't have time to get into that, but you're going to do your presentation. But guess what you're not going to hear when you're done with your presentation and you go to close? You're not going to hear, I have to check with so-and-so. It's not the right timing. We can't afford it. All the stupid common objections you get. This is the power of knowing how to control a sales call without being, where you know the system so you can go ahead and custom create this for no matter what you're selling, whether it's where you're at now or down the road, if you go to a corporation or whatever. And sales, I cannot tell you, if you're not sure if your team needs this, just record one of their calls and then take that recording and go into the CEO's office with the rep and all three of you listen to it together. Are you high-fiving or are you? The beauty of this is it took me a very long time and a lot of trial and error and a lot of stress to perfect this. But I've got it down so much that, like I said, my very first company in 2002, how many of you were alive back then to know what was going on between 2000 and 2002? The world was coming to an end. They called it the dot-com bomb crash, right? Everything was crashing. I actually started a company when everybody else is failing. I started an internet company when they're all failing because I knew how to. Now, with that being said, I was made a seven-figure cash deal I couldn't refuse, sold the company. A few years later, I decided to start SalesBuzz, right around the time the housing market was crashing. Yet, I knew how to pick up the phone, use my formula to make it successful. I'm still here today. I'm telling you guys, when you learn this systematic, how to control the sales call without being controlling, there's scripts there's scripts, but don't forget, every Oscar-winning actor and actress all had scripts. They just didn't make it sound like a script. So you have to know what the framework is. And then you have to know, it's not about knowing, having a script. See, most sales scripts create more problems than they solve, right? They just give it to the sales rep and go, here, say this, say this, say this, say this. That's you, the sales rep, have to understand each section of that. What is the goal? And if the script you're handing doesn't follow that proven framework, you got to deep six it and replace it. So again, your opening value statement's job is to do two things: peak interest, gain permission. Then you got to get into the qualifying. There's 3 phases of qualifying: problem recognition, qualify their role, and then you have the mini stuff of time frame. What are the top 3 things most important to them, and then qualifying them on price. Once you get that done, then you move into the third phase of doing the presentation, which again, the purpose of a presentation is to create an opportunity to close. Once that opportunity comes up, then you go to the 4th step, you close the deal. Handle objections, close the deal. That is work. I know we're over time. I appreciate you guys staying here for the ones that stayed on. I'm going to send you a recording of this. If you have some questions, I'll go ahead and take them now. I'll be more than happy to stay on and answer them for you. If you need to bounce. So the first question is, how do you go about white spacing your territory? I'm not sure I understand the question of that. As far as that, so if you want to clarify that question, go ahead. Yeah, so I'm not really familiar with what you mean by white spacing your territory. Anybody else have? Yes, and thanks about the anti-glare glasses. I do need to go get those. Do you have this framework written down? So it's more than, yes, I have a PDF framework that's there, comes in the course, but more importantly than that, so here's the thing. Most people aren't going to be able to afford me to train them live one-on-one, right? I put it all into an on-demand. How is the on-demand? First of all, I think it's important you to know that from 2010 to 2020, I was doing all my training live online. It was 1 hour a week. I took the entire sales process. Most training is done in one day, live, in-person training, whatever. That's the traditional way sales training was done. The problem is when I was a sales rep and I would go to that, is that the training would be great for one. Forget about the fact that you lost a whole day of production. But let's say the training was great. 3 days later, you're back in your bad habits or routines again, right? Because it was too much. So when I started SalesBuzz, I said, I don't want to. So we did it online, 1 hour a week over in 20. I was like, how do I go ahead and get this in and get better results and cut the fees for my audience that wants to sign up? And that's where the on-demand classes came in. So I have this entire thing in short micro videos where you get to watch each section, and then you take a little quiz, and then you have your scripts, your cheat sheets, your playbooks, and then just for that week, and then you just study and you use what you've learned. It takes 1 hour to go through it each week, and then you just get on the phone putting to practice what you've learned all week. So you become really good at it so that it just, and then when you're done with that first, that'll teach you how to get prospects on the phone, taking your call. And then from there, okay, the next week, the next course unlocks. And then it goes to the next section, and then the next section, all the way through. And it's like $300, guys, $299 a person to go through. That was the best way that I could teach people without me having to do live stuff. Yes, I still do live stuff. If the team is big enough, you order enough seats, and then you get some live training as well as with that. All right. I'll be more than happy to, let me just include the link here for the free stuff. Hold on. Since somebody's asking. Just bear with me. If you have to bounce it, go ahead. Yes, this is going to be recorded. Yes, I will send it out. No. All right. Let's do this here. So you can go ahead and take the free, the first lesson for free. See if you like it. If you have any other questions, if you have any questions right now, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm not sure. Pre-qualifying. Okay, so this was a clarification. Pre-qualifying the prospects before you know they're a good. Every business is in business to solve specific a specific problem or problems. Do we agree to that? That's the only reason why businesses are in business. Subway's in business to feed hunger. Somebody's hungry, they want a quick snack, right? Okay, your software solution that solves problems. It could be one major problem, or it could be every business is only in business for solving because they know who their target audience is that has that type of problem or should have that type of problem. So you want to build a lead list that matches certain criteria. The easiest way to look at all the analyze all the deals that you had in your company. One of the ways I do it is I'll take all the deals that I've closed, and I only include the ones that I think are the best clients, right? So sure, if it's an individual one here, there, no. Somebody ordered 20 or more seats, that's what I'm looking at, because that's one I want to spend my time prospecting on. So I take all the URLs of the people that bought X amount of seats or more, so I can see and that person's information, and I run it through a data enrichment tool. And guess what? When I get all the information back, I start to see a common pattern. Employee size, location, industry, right? I get to see those basics of the average title. One of the questions that should have come up is, well, if you're starting with problem recognition, how do you know who to start the conversation with? Well, if you look back at all your past deals and then you pull in all the people in each one of those deals from the other side who had a vote in that deal, right? So your clients, you look at each deal. Was it just one person? Was it 3 people? Was it 5 people? And then you take out people who didn't have a vote and you just do the people that had a vote, and then you data enrich them. You're going to start to see common titles, common 2 or 3 different titles that are always popping up, so that I know that if I reach out to somebody that's a CRO at one organization, they might not be the ultimate decision, but I know I can at least start with them because they've proven to be always at least part of the process. So if nothing else, they might say, this sounds great, but you really need to speak to so-and-so. Great, now I have an internal. Make sense? One of the biggest problems sales reps make, one of the biggest mistakes they make is they assume somebody is the decision maker based on the title. But let me ask you this. Have you ever assumed somebody was the decision maker because they had the right title, and then you go for a close and they say, I got to check. Now, again, if that happens, it means you didn't run the fast forward technique. It means you didn't run the fast forward technique to clarify that I teach you in the qualifying phase. But here's the thing. There's going to be sometimes that a CRO at a company with 200 plus employees that's doing 10 plus million a year in revenue in the same location, that same type of company across the street, the one CRO can make the final decision. The CRO across the street, they have a different purchasing process. They might have 2 or 3 sign-offs. This is why you never want to assume that they are a decision maker. But you should know what are the top 2 or 3 titles of the people who are almost always involved. And this way, when you do your outreach, you're starting with them. And then when you know how to pique interest, gain permission to continue the call, and you know exactly what to say to get that conversation started for the right reasons, and you follow this talk track where you're controlling the call without being controlling, without sounding pushy, without sounding scripted, you're just having a conversation. But what's happening is you're building solid pipeline and your commission check. And then you need to know how to do a presentation, handle objections. That's what we put having a proven framework will do for you. I know we're way over time. I hope you guys more than happy to help any way I can. Yes, I'll make sure you guys get the recording. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Be more than happy to connect. All right.